Hello guys, I wanted to talk with you today about a New York University study that was released the other day, and this was discussed on Tucker Carlson last night, so I wanted to address it myself in more detail. So basically, this New York University study, it basically the goal is to find that there is no anti-conservative bias, or the goal is to prove whether or not there is an anti-conservative bias through social media. So that was their effort, and to figure that out, they NYU researchers analyzed data from analytic platforms such as something called CrowdTangle and NewsWhip. They also consulted a 2020 Politico study covering a similar subject, and the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, whatever that is. So they did their homework, but it's also unclear what they mostly talked about digging into particular anecdotal evidence of this kind of thing happening. And what may not be a shock is that a university situated in a city like New York City, which most people would argue already has a liberal bias, they decide to do this study. So you've got, right off the bat, it's already questionable based on who's doing the study, and that being NYU is already raising red flags. Like if they because all universities seem to be a liberal echo chamber these days, but in particular, I would say a university like NYU has to be up there with like the Wellesleys and the Berkeleys and the UCLAs of what you would what I'm saying. There's a difference between NYU and Iowa State. If Iowa State had published this article or this study, I might be a little. I wouldn't be so suspicious. But they claim that no evidence unsurprisingly, they claim that no evidence of anti-conservative bias in the form of censorship has taken place. Apparently at any point, but particularly I would say regarding the last 2 years, I would say it all really kicked into gear with the banning of Alex Jones from Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. Heck, even Donald Trump isn't banned from YouTube. I know Alex Jones was, though. And then, of course, it reached kind of its apex, that you could say, in the banning of the President of the United States. Obviously, I'd say it's a little bit more concerning than Alex Jones. But the writing was on the wall 2 years ago. So what's interesting about this is that the claims of anti-conservative bias, they say, in their words, the claims of anti-conservative bias is not only untrue, but serve as a form of disinformation. So, and at no point do they seem to be concerned with, based on the study itself. There's no point when they seem concerned about disinformation, about what to do with disinformation as far as censorship goes. They seem very much. They seem at no point in this article by The Verge, or I was according to The Verge. At no point do they talk about if it is or isn't a problem with controlling and putting a lid on disinformation. They seem to be very much for it. But it's just it's wild, because it's just you can't even just be wrong about what you say without. It's not enough to. You can't just be wrong. You have to be, according to these guys, you're not just if you claim anti-conservative bias, you're not just wrong, but you're serving a form of disinformation. That is, which means, according to their, and they seem, and NYU in the study, they seem to have no problem with policing disinformation and controlling disinformation and censoring it. So it's not enough just to make false claims about anti-conservative bias, which I don't think they're false. But for the sake of argument, if those claims are false, which it's really up for opinion, like you can opinionate your way out of it being true, I would say, to an extent, and that's largely what I think happened here. But what do you do with people who make so now if you're making claims of an anti-conservative bias via your social network profile, you are perpetuating disinformation, and the logical conclusion is that you should also be deplatformed. It's not okay. It's clearly not okay for you to be making claims that there's an anti-conservative bias in social media when it comes to censorship. And of course, we're not just talking about outright banning someone from a platform, deplatforming them, or deleting messages or putting their message in a context friendly to that social media, like putting a tweet within confines of a context that they deem appropriate, or deplatform or lower, because when you bury someone in the algorithm, that's a form of censorship too. People don't really. There's multiple forms of censorship. There's multiple ways to hide people, hide content without outright banning them. There's the internet death penalty, so to speak, is avoided at all possible. So let's see, what else was I